With so many tutors out there, how do you make sure that students and parents choose you or know how to choose you? We'll explore how to define what really makes your services unique, how to communicate your value really clearly, and essentially attract the right clients. You'll also learn some simple tweaks that you can make today to instantly stand out. Without a clear message, potential clients may overlook your services, and this episode will help you position yourself as the go-to tutor in your niche. Welcome to the Upgrade Your Education Business podcast. I'm your host, Samantha, and I'm so pleased you're here. As an education business owner myself and a former teacher, I understand the nuances that only apply to us. So in this podcast, I share fluff-free, tailored and actionable ideas that you can mould to suit your needs. If you'd like to take this conversation further, please do reach out. I would love to meet you. And finally, it would mean the world to me if you could leave a review. That way, you'll be helping me help more people. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy. Now, when we think about standing out, we often look at our competition and think, how can we make ourselves stand out in comparison to them? I'm not going to show you how to do that today because you don't need to. To stand out, you don't need to look better or different to your competition. You just need to be you, but in an intentional way. That's what I'll focus on in this episode because it's much more empowering, enjoyable, and easier to be you. And it's powerful because that's what helps you attract the right clients to you. You know, this element is so crucial, that it is attracting the right people to you. Last year, I went through a year-long medical treatment and it was really tough, mentally and physically. My clients didn't know what was happening, but they knew something was going on. And so many of them sent me messages of support. Now, this had such a huge impact because I didn't have to worry about my clients or about my business in addition to everything else that was going on. Plus, focusing on attracting the right people has created longevity in my business. I don't advertise for tuition anymore, and I haven't done for a number of years, but I still attract inquiries. In the Tutors Mastermind, people stay on average between 2 to 3 years, and I get repeat one-to-one clients. I'm really, really proud of this. And I truly believe that something that really contributes towards this is holding my nerve when I have to say no to someone who I don't think is a good fit, instead of just making more sales at any cost. So if you're still listening, that means you feel the same way. You too value attracting the right people into your business so that you have stability and a business that you really love. In this episode, I'm going to help you stand out in a way that really supports that. Now, we've all heard of the saying that people buy from people. And for that to happen, people need to know, like, and trust us. But just for a moment, I'm going to take like out of the equation. It will make sense why very soon. Let's just focus on know and trust. Helping people get to know you, your values, the things that matter to them is really powerful. But the problem is, the idea of putting yourself out there in that way can often feel scary. If you've listened to my episode with guest Leah Turner, you'll remember a phrase she used. It's about getting exposure, not feeling exposed. So when you use that as your steer, there are plenty of things you can talk about that helps people get to know you without it encroaching on your privacy. And as I talk about in the storytelling training in the mastermind, this is how to tell stories without feeling uncomfortable or awkward. It's really important to remember that people will infer from what we say. So let's say one of your core values as a tutor is that children should have a balance in order to be brain ready to learn. Studying all the time isn't good for them. They need hobbies, they need play, and so on. If you often showed people snapshots from, say, hobbies that you have or days out that you go on, then you're showing how you live by your values too. You don't just teach, you have other hobbies as well. People with similar hobbies may be able to relate to you, or perhaps you'd start a conversation with people who have considered taking up a similar hobby and maybe they're asking for recommendations. This creates connection. My third tip today will help you generate ideas of the kind of things you can talk about. But for now, let's stay on the know and trust parts of the whole know, like, and trust phrase. I mentioned earlier how helping people get to know you, your values, things that matter to them is powerful. I'll tell you something that happened a couple of weeks ago. I'd been seeing online content in the tutoring world where people were trying to stand out and make themselves look good, which was great. But the part I wasn't liking so much was that they were trying to make others look bad to make it happen. Now, I'm really cautious about responding to stuff like that online, mainly because I don't really like that kind of energy in my world, and it's not what I want to focus on. But on this occasion, I just felt compelled to say something. So I did. I wrote a post on Facebook about how I didn't like it and how we all sprinkle our own blend of magic on everything we do, and that's what we should celebrate. Now, did everyone like that post? Probably not. But I received 5 messages from people who said it resonated with them and that they had been noticing it as well and didn't like it. Now, out of those 5 people who messaged me, 2 of them became new clients of mine. They said that they'd been thinking of working with me, and that post sealed that I was right for them. Now, I'm not saying that you have to say things that are assertive or even polarizing. I mean, you can if you want, but the point is, when you A, talk about your values, things that you feel strongly about, and B, speak about things that also matter to your audience, you will attract the right people because they're getting to know you. And the reason why I took like out of the equation earlier is because that's not necessarily something we need to actively chase. If we're genuinely ourselves, we won't be liked by everyone, but we will be liked by the right people because we're giving them a chance to get to know us. Now, on to trust. In fact, my next 2 tips will really help you nurture this with your potential clients. So, the first thing I want to highlight is using the 80-20 rule correctly. I read something recently where someone advised that tutors should post 80% of value posts and 20% of sales based posts. That's not what the 80-20 rule is about. And actually, it's quite outdated advice. I'll go into it in a little bit more detail very shortly. But on the topic of freebies, I've talked about it before that if you keep helping people for free, you end up training them to expect that from you. It's what they come to expect. And then they don't respond very much when you're selling. Lots of value posts used to work when I started 8 years ago when there weren't quite so many tutors who were visible. So it's quite outdated advice. And this is about standing out, not blending in. So think about the know and trust that I talked about earlier. Help people get to know you, speak their language, which I'm going to talk about in a bit more detail next. So, a great way to establish trust, in addition to showing people who you are, is to show people how you can help. But as I mentioned, it doesn't have to come in the form of continual freebies. So, before I delve into what I mean and what you can do, let's clarify the 80-20 rule. If you focus on 80% of value, 20% of sales, then you're following outdated advice. It's as outdated, unfortunately, as setting up a Facebook page and posting value and expecting people to come to you. It used to work, but it just doesn't anymore. Facebook has changed and the landscape has changed as well. So, this episode, we really want to focus on standing out. As I mentioned, we don't want to blend in. So, when we think of the 80-20 rule, it's best used in a strategic way. The principle comes from an economist who noticed patterns in lots of different areas in life where 80% of results come from 20% of efforts. Since then, it's been used widely in sales and in marketing. And when it comes to marketing in particular, it's best used by doubling down on the marketing platforms and strategies that yield 80% of your results. This basically keeps things sustainable, as well as giving you the best possible chance of standing out and making sales. So, how do we establish trust? We've talked about the know. How do we look at trust if it isn't purely through sharing value and freebies? Well, we don't want to train your audience to expect free things from you, but we can ask ourselves, well, why are we even doing it? Why are we sharing free value? It's because we want to make sales. We want people to trust us so that they feel confident in investing in what we offer. And to achieve that, we need to work backwards from that. So here's a big question. What will make potential clients feel confident that you can help them? Now, when you're thinking about that question, there are 3 things that we need to know. Number 1, what problems do they have? Number 2, how do they feel? Number three, how do we help? And then we can figure out how to communicate exactly how we help. And my next tip will help us with that latter focus. So, right now, let's think about the problems that our target client has and how we can help. When we broadly look at problems that people have and things that they invest in to solve these problems, we're usually looking at one or a combination of three things. People invest in things that save them time, make their lives easier, or make them money. So we need to line ourselves up with those. I'll do a little worked example that will help you generate ideas of how you can use this for things like your website, marketing content, and even in conversations with potential clients. You have to know your business really well to do this. So I'm going to use mine for this worked example. I'm going to wear my business mentor hat. So let's look at the saving time, that part of things. I have been that person who has watched the YouTube videos, downloaded freebies, attended free webinars, listened to podcast episodes, furiously making notes. In fact, I kind of still am that person, but before I invested in coaches and memberships, I personally really like being part of a membership. I spent a lot of time trying things out, not being sure if I was making the right decisions, having loads of questions and not really having anyone to ask, being unsure if I was even really doing the right things, and so on. When I started investing in people who knew more than me and had the kind of experience that I could learn from, I saved hours of trial and error. So I know how that person feels. I've been that person. So when I'm thinking about what I offer, I can use that kind of language to show my potential clients who are all time poor how I can save them time. Now let's look at that second benefit of making people's lives easier. When I was developing my business, I thought long and hard about whether I should run a course or a membership. And I decided on the latter because I was meeting people who needed different things. So I didn't want to put them in a situation where they had to wait until we got to a specific point in a course to access exactly what they needed. Being able to choose what I learn based on what I need at any given time is why I love being in business memberships myself. So this won't line up with what everyone wants, and that's okay. Remember, this is about standing out to attract the right clients to you, and the right client will feel the same. So I could use that language that in my marketing to say that, look, this is going to make your life easier because you can just pick and choose and earn while you learn. Now on to making money. When I think of the return on investment that I'm offering, the mastermind costs £60 a month. Most of my clients only need to secure one student, and that would more than cover that monthly cost. So any more than that will be profit, so to speak, which means that my training is focused on helping people essentially make more sales. I target the exact thing they may need to know how to make those sales, like generating marketing ideas that connect, that sell, ways to have strategic discovery calls, and so on, and passive income ideas. But ultimately, it's all underpinned by making more money on the whole. I mean, we do some work on streamlining and so on. But if I was targeting that particular benefit of making money, how do I help people make money? That's what I need to communicate. So when you look at your offering and how you're communicating it through that lens, to stand out, you need to be talking about what not only matters to your audience, but the thing that moves them to buy. And that's where you're thinking, how do I save them time? How do I make their lives easier, and so on? Now on to how to communicate it and what to actually say. The main principle here is that we need to speak to the problem that we want to solve. I did some training recently with a really talented copywriter who specifically focuses on sales copy, and she shared a really golden tip that I'm going to share with you. If you want to know exactly what to say and which problems to address when promoting what you do your research first. If you haven't already, make notes of what your past potential clients or actual clients have said to you when you first met them, and parrot that language back to them. Now, fortunately, I've always made really detailed notes whenever I have discovery calls. But something that I noticed when I looked through my notes is that they were written in my language, not their words. They were my notes, and so that's what I focused on. So I immediately switched this up and I started noting what people were actually saying to me. I was using their language. This basically gives you your sales copy. You don't have to worry about what sounds good and what sounds clever or, clever phrasing. It's going to sell because your clients have already told you, this is what I want, and they've given you the language to use. Now, how you do this will, of course, depend on your aim. When it comes to being systematic, I don't look at the percentage of how much content should focus on sales and so on. If you're trying to sell, if you're selling something right now, 100% of your content should be selling. That doesn't mean being really direct all the time, but it should be selling. If you're trying to grow your audience right now, then 100% of your content should be focusing on achieving that. So I don't really talk about this is the proportion of these kinds of posts that you need and so on. Instead, I train tutors to create a 1-year strategic plan, so that they know exactly when they should be selling and when they should be doing the other stuff, like building their audience. So when you're selling, you want to be really targeted with your language, and that's where that advice kicks in. Use your target customer's language. It's not about what we think. It's about someone reading our stuff and thinking, wow, that was written for me. They really need to connect with it. But if you're building your audience and you're creating more of a connection with them, focusing on the know and trust that I talked about earlier, you can still focus on what matters to them, but you would write more in your voice, not theirs. So when you're building your audience, when you're connecting, that's written in your voice. When you're selling, try and write in your client's or potential client's voice. So, tutors and education business owners, how are you feeling about standing out? I've referred to quite a bit of training that I have in the mastermind that will help you with this. So if you want instant access to them, just click the link in the show notes. But in the meantime, remember that standing out isn't about being competitive. It's about being you in a really strategic way. That if you don't walk away with anything else from today, this is the thing I really want you to walk away with. To stand out, we need to be consistent. We need to stay on people's radar, but we can only be consistent if what we're doing is sustainable, if we can actually keep it going frequently over a long period of time. So use things like the 80-20 rule to be strategic about it. Choose the platforms and methods that really work for you, that you have the time to maintain, and really double down on those. Also, don't think of your marketing as in percentages and proportions. Don't think that, okay, every week I need one value post, I need one connection post, I need one sales post, I need one testimonial. Let's have testimonial Thursday. Don't think of those patterns. Again, those kinds of things used to work. They don't really work now, and they're not very sustainable. If you fall off that wagon, it's really hard to get back on. Instead, split your year into phases. So in my year, I have planned every time I'm doing a free webinar, I'm planning when, a new mastermind topic is coming out and so on. And I work backwards from that. So for 2 weeks, I might be selling. I might be talking about a webinar that I've got going, or I might be updating people with what's to come in the mastermind. But the rest of the time, I'm not selling. Sales may come as a byproduct, as a by result from what I'm doing. But what I'm doing is I'm building my audience, and I'm building connection. And that loop just kind of continues. And it means that you don't get that burnout from selling all the time. It means your audience don't get burnt out from seeing that from you. And you're continually building those numbers. You're continually connecting with people and helping people understand why you might be the right person for them. Or maybe you're helping them understand that you're not. Both of those things are good. So thank you as always for listening, and you'll hear from me on Wednesday. Would you like to take this discussion further? Perhaps you have some questions, or you'd like more ideas on tailoring your business. If so, book a free discovery call through the link in the show notes.